Welcome to the Real World Show with Steve and John Miller. Excuse me. Bug in my throat. Yeah, I like my friends to know out there. My friends that work at Google, my friends that work at DHS, FEMA, Federal Bureau of Investigation, etc. I have a long list. Exactly how Steve and John Miller feels. Yes, I'm a big believer in the natural law doctrine, okay? But, the human race is so far removed from that now that it'll take a global upheaval, a cataclysm from space or what have you, to bring back a natural law where you respect your neighbor, you respect the ecosystem, and most of all, too, you respect yourself, because until you respect and love yourself, you cannot respect and love other people. Now, regarding the aforementioned agencies, there's a great need for those agencies if we can have them act within the law, okay, and not, go outside the boundaries of the law with any excuse, like what happened in the Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. You see, that was there was a lot of illegal activity taking place down there. Firearms being confiscated, which, thank God, those police officers spent years in prison. There was 5,000 prisoners in New Orleans executed, shot in the head, and dumped in the swamps during all this confusion. And these weren't elected, sheriffs or deputies running these jails and prisons. These are just Bob Barker corporate prisons. And they seen an easy way to get rid of 5,000 prisoners, take them off the books. They just tell the family, sorry, they passed away, and, what's the family going to do? And thousands of other people were killed by the government during Katrina. For what? For, little, Robert Williams stealing a TV out of a Walmart. He was shot down and killed. I mean, this was a horror that happened in Katrina, and the government proved to be very inept, and they couldn't even take care of this one city and a few counties. So what do you think is going to happen when the whole country is a big giant Katrina because of a systematic failure, because of a cataclysm, because of these giant space bodies, this constellation that's heading inbound right now towards us, that probably by the first of next month, everybody will be able to see this in the sky, unless you're chemtrailed, like it is around here. So, how do I feel about the agencies? Sadly, they are a necessary evil at this point in time, because we have a big burgeoning population, and we have a huge population of immoral people and gangsters and drug addicts and just insane people. And I think a lot of people that work for these agencies realize a darker force higher up, with intent, malicious intent, destroyed our education system, destroyed our industrial infrastructure, sent our jobs overseas, wrote endless legislation against us, the people, in violation of their fiduciary duties, which means, one standing in the position of trustee. That's Black's Law, page 563, 5th edition. So yeah, I'm against all the unlawful parts of it, but in reality, I live in a very complex society. This isn't, 1789. A very complex society with very complex issues. So yes, these agencies have a necessary side, but on the same token, we've got to try to go by the law. And if they would do that, and I'll give you an example. You have good Federal Bureau of Investigation people, then you have the bad guys in the FBI. You have good CIA agents, literally, that do their job. go into foreign countries and stop terrorism, like John Moore, a friend of mine just north of me in Missouri, okay, retired. He fought terrorism for years. And so there's good guys. I mean, really good people. But see, all these different factions, the Committee of 300, which is your 300 top corporations, basically, that create this fascist matrix. Okay, Ford Motor Company being one of them, for example. They're a member of the Committee of 300, of course, Bill Gates and Apple Computers, and I can go on and on and on. That's the Committee of 300. So look at the most giant corporations, and you'll see the Committee of 300. And then you have the Illuminati, which are pretty much hidden people. And I was offered a very high position in the Illuminati by a Grand Master. And when I turned it down, and I was doing guitar lessons at the time on Craigslist, and they sent somebody out, and he was out there to do me in, but fortunately for me, my neighbors were around. He came out with a guitar like he wanted a lesson, but in his leather satchel, he had a 44 Magnum in there, and he was there to do me in. There was no doubt about it. Like I said, fortunately for me, my neighbors were all around this particular place in northern Michigan where I was staying at the time, and so nothing came of it. But you could tell he wasn't really there for a guitar lesson. He showed very little interest in guitar. He didn't show any actual, knowledge of guitar. The whole thing was a setup, and this is only a couple weeks after my rejection of this Grand Master email and wanting me to, join the Illuminati. And I just told him I wasn't interested. I don't need to be part of any groups to be fulfilled in life. But I said thank you anyway, and there was a website link on there, the Royal or Grand Order or something of the Illuminati. And then I Googled it, and I pulled up a Illuminati page, and they were talking about 9/11 and all this BS. And I emailed this Grand Master guy back, and I said, how come one of your web pages is claiming, a bunch of, cavemen did 9/11? I said, anybody by now knows this was a job of Mossad, Bush, and, who knows? Bush being blackmailed, or was he part of it? I don't know. I can't answer that. And Saudi Arabia financed the whole thing, okay? And he emailed me right back, and he goes, what website did you see that on, if you don't mind? He said, can you send me a link? And I sent him a link, and he goes, that's not us. I don't know who posted that. He said, thank you for, letting me know this. Then I never heard back from him. And then a couple weeks later, this strange guy shows up, I honestly believe, to take me out. So, and that was very frightening. I picked up his leather satchel. I said, this is awful heavy. What's in it? And he went to grab it out of my hand before he left and, grabbed one handle. And I looked down in there. There's a 44 mag. It wasn't in a holster or nothing. Okay. Well, that's right there. I'm not stupid. Okay. I've used firearms my whole life. If you have that kind of a firearm, you keep it in a holster, snap shut. Just have it in a leather satchel, where you can quickly grab it. So my life has been like a big scary story a lot of times, but also a wonderful adventure, because I don't let fear keep me from doing the things I like to do. So yes, I in FEMA, I mentioned to one of my friends, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I mentioned to one of my friends that works with DHS that, FEMA helped me out in 1998. The Swanee River came over the banks and flooded my 13 acres on the Swanee River. And they helped me relocate my horses and rent 5 acres for me to live on. And they even gave me $3,500. So it's not all BS, these agencies. They do actually help people, and I can testify to that. Again, we should be going by the rule of law, which, the only rule of law we've got right now that's anywhere near good is the debt instrument known as the Constitution, written by constitutors, what's a constitutor? A constitutor writes instruments of debt for other people. So that's what the Constitution is. It's an instrument of debt, And if you read it, what are they saying? That, all the debts are still relevant, and they will manage the debts and coin the money and provide for the defense, and at the same time, protect our natural, unalienable rights. The first 10 amendments of the Constitution are the Bill of Rights, and they're supposed to abide by that. But there's a lot of good cops that do abide by it. Then there's a lot of bad cops that, I don't even think they could tell you what most of the amendments are. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very level-headed. I understand we live in a very messed up society, and we got most of our children now texting and using tablets, and their IQ is lower than it's ever been, which makes no sense because my computer, it's all knowledge stuff. It's folders and folders and folders of law and, everything you can imagine, from writ of mandamus to writ of certiorari to everything law, okay, that I've studied for years. Folders and folders of it. And other folders and folders and folders of just music that I've personally recorded and sang and played guitar or sat in with other bands, etc. And other folders, many folders of just shows. John B. Wells, Art Bell, George Norrie, Randy Moggins, Michael Vera. I can go on and on and on, okay? I've got all those saved, and I save them to flash drive just in case my computer crashes. I don't lose everything. Then I have folders and folders and folders of personal stuff, just my gardens and my dogs and stuff like that, and, just cool stuff. Folders and folders and folders of photos of people that I interview, like Sheriff Mack. So when I do new interviews, I can insert those photos into the video. So to me, the computer is all about knowledge. So why do we have two generations of people that, all they do is Facebook and just stupid stuff, and then you go back to the Bible, which is the theological text people recognize the most in this country. And it says, in the end days, mankind shall become lovers of themselves. And that's where we are now. Arrogance, profound stupidity, and it's funny, the dumbest, most uneducated people you'll ever meet are also the most arrogant and full of shit. So it goes hand in hand. And some of the most humble people you'll ever meet will be some of the most, intellectual people that you'll ever meet that kind of have they figured out the name of the tune, so to speak. But then I thought it was important I let people know, how I feel. So I'm not anti anything. I am pro small government and pro freedom, but on the same token, I'm realistic at the society we're living in, and this is a dangerous world, and there are crazy people. So there is a need for these agencies, but again, we have to go by the law. You can't just keep pulling over Americans and violating the Fourth Amendment of illegal search and seizure without a warrant, which means you need a probable cause affidavit, which means you need an incident report. Okay, these are your own laws that you should be following. And I talked to a sheriff's deputy a few months ago when I was helping some people get their children back from an agency. And I said, dude, you just can't come out to their property with a whatever that was you were carrying, an M5 or whatever, and without a probable cause affidavit. He goes, oh, we don't need a probable cause affidavit. I said, yeah, you do. He goes, well, I don't want to argue with you, because that's what they teach these young cops, when they don't know what they're talking about. Say, I don't want to argue, like I'm arguing. So I said, well, I got the law right here. Do you want to read it? Violation of federal rules of civil procedure. Okay, where do you want me to stop? Violation of Labor Code, Section 1, Article 11. Violation of your oath under Article 6, Clause 3. Violation of 18 U.S. Code, Section 242, deprivation of rights under color of law, using threats, coercion, or harassment. Where do you want me to stop here? And then he looked very, humiliated and humbled. And I told him I don't want to have to come back here and I'm filing with the Attorney General and have him fax a warrant to the U.S. Marshals. It's just that simple. See, because these guys are used to dealing with dumbed-down retards on the street that, spend their whole day smoking reefer and on their iPad or whatever, and they're not used to dealing with an intellectual jurist of law, which just means expert or writer in law, okay, or a judge. And so they're not used to that. So I'm very pragmatic. And at the same time, there should be a respect for human rights, and that angers me when you use national security or some BS like that to start just saying, well, we're just Nazi Germany now. You don't have any rights. Well, that can only lead to one thing, and that one thing is not anything anybody should want, and that being a revolution. Like the government now stealing children on an industrial scale because somebody's house is messy, because of an anonymous phone call, because an angry mother-in-law, made say some ad hominem retaliatory attack against her daughter-in-law. So that's due process now, to send out sheriff's deputies with a child protective services agent and say, we need to come in your house, no warrant or nothing. And she said your house is messy. You're not a good mother. So this is you're telling me this is enough evidence to steal somebody's children? Are you kidding me? All these people should be arrested and thrown in prison immediately. And I am petitioning the White House to do just that. Somebody's got to do something, okay? I get 100 emails a month of mothers saying my children were stolen. And now, see, being a pragmatic individual, I also see it like, well, this mother wasn't a very good mother. Because how come you don't know the Constitution? How come you don't know your rights? How come you're not spending the day being a good, honorable person and being an educated person and raising your kids up to be educated, loving people? Because I think if we were all being honorable people, the CPS wouldn't stand a chance. But if you're such a damn dumbed-down retard that when you see somebody at your door in a uniform or claiming to be a position of authority, that you just open the door and let them right in and let them take your kid, well, that's a voluntary action. And if you sign a safety agreement and read it, it'll even tell you that you voluntarily gave up your kids. So you're an idiot. So it's very frustrating to somebody like me. And I do try to help these kind of people merely by educating them on the law, the Constitution. It's like, well, if you want to call yourself a 14th Amendment citizen, there's still remedy there for you, because the shit says in the 14th Amendment that nobody shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, okay? Well, that's not bloody due process when two sheriffs show up with some CPS woman or man and say, we need to come in, and then people either let them in, or even if they say, well, you need a warrant, they still force their way in. Well, I tell everybody, these women that email me, it's like, never open the door, crack the window, show them the kid through the window so they can see the kid is safe and the mother-in-law is full of it. Okay, and then say you need a bonded warrant, BONDED, bonded. They have to have a bonded warrant, in case they damage your property or, trip and fall on the way inside your door and crush the kid they're there to steal. Every warrant must be bonded, okay? And you don't open the door ever. And if they say, we'll come back with a warrant, or we have a warrant, say, well, who bonded it? Because and after about 35, 40 minutes of talking to the DA, they'll just get the hell out of there because they don't have a bonded warrant, okay? Who the hell would bond it? So ignorance is no excuse. People should be learning this stuff, and there's plenty of this knowledge on YouTube and all kinds of channels. So there's no excuse for not knowing what's going on in the world. None whatsoever, except for woeful, willful ignorance. And America is paying for their complacency and their stupidity. That's what's happening now. And of course, you have right-wing religious nutcases like, Steve Quayle and all these other people. They just love to shove their religious beliefs down everybody's throat. You have these people on every channel nowadays, claiming this is judgment of God. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with God. This is complacency and stupidity on a level never seen before. If you sit there and you're complacent and lazy and you give your power to some sickening multimillionaire politician, what do you think is going to happen to your rights? And that's what's going on. It has nothing to do with God whatsoever. I'm sick of hearing that. And there's not a shred of evidence for any God anyway. Show me your evidence that some God exists as mankind has created God. God didn't create mankind. There's no evidence for that. None. Not a shred. Is there some kind of supreme power in the universe? There very well may be. But I wouldn't belittle that power by using a man-made, euphemism like God. Okay, God came, from these alien entities that terraformed this planet and, genetically manipulated mankind into existence, which was a violation of what? Natural law. Okay, it's despicable and disgusting. In other words, we should have never been created. And all you need to do is look at our oceans are polluted and dying. Fukushima killed the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean's dead. In 2 or 3 years, there'll be nothing there, which means it kills off a huge percentage of the oxygen-producing algae, not algae, but the microbes in the top 30 feet of the ocean. It creates 90% of our oxygen. So, the human race, through its complacency and willful ignorance, has allowed this beautiful little marble that we were supposed to leave for our children's inheritance in shambles. Disgusting shambles, where the rivers are polluted and animals are being tortured, and we have factory farming, where you have chickens shoved in cages so tight they can't move a quarter of an inch. Same with cows and pigs. It's disgusting. It's filthy, disgusting, and vile, and that's why I get angry when people like these, these movements on YouTube saying the white hats are coming to save us, the white knights. Fuck you and your bullshit. Okay? No, I don't need any white dragons or white knights or white hats or anything like that. I need my American family to pull their head out of their orifice, okay, and start taking responsibility for their own life. That's all. It's that simple. And then all the judgment of God shit goes away, and all the white knight, white dragon, white hat bullshit goes away, because guess what? Now when you get up in the morning, you're 100% liable for your actions. Instead of buying an insurance policy and having limited liability, corporate criminal revolving doors, okay? Because that's the problem. We live in a nation of irresponsibility. Just buy insurance. And, you need an airbag and a seatbelt and have the government bubble wrap you, okay? And bubble wrap everybody and have checkpoints everywhere. This is not a judgment of God. This is called human complacency and lazy people, they're little children. I meet adults every day. They're adult size, but you talk to them and there's an 8-year-old kid in there. I want to go bowling. I want to go to the fair. I want to go to McDonald's. I work all day so I can have my car, my credit card, and look cool. While their rights are being taken away by the second. While the oceans are destroyed with oil and radiation, and now the whole northern hemisphere is contaminated with radiation beyond any measure. This is an extinction level event of the world. Can you comprehend that? Because we all sat there complacently while GE built these worthless reactors right on the ocean on fault lines, earthquake fault lines. Of course, we all now know that anybody in the know studies that Israel detonated some kind of nuclear device on the ocean floor to wipe out Japan because they were given enriched uranium. They were giving enriched uranium to Iran, which is really stupid because the Japanese are really stupid people. Okay, they chop off sharks' fins and dump them back in the ocean. Who go kill all the whales around Australia and have to be chased out by people like me. The Japanese are really stupid, immoral people. They're so prideful and traditional, and if you see the way they treat animals, not all of them, okay. Because I get tired of hearing that shit. Well, I know a nice Japanese person. I never said they're all bad, okay? But the Japanese, collectively speaking, are nothing but a big disaster. 30 million people in Tokyo. Have you guys ever heard of a condom? You live on two islands. Where are you guys gonna go? Start swimming over here like the Mexican people? There's a reason. See, it's not my fault the way the world's laid out. It's not my bloody fault, okay? So, if there's a border, it's because people weren't getting along hundreds of years ago. There was a huge Mexican-American war, okay? And America, of course, stole Texas and, a lot of land from Mexico. That, you live in a world of survival of the fit. And no, I'm not a Darwinian kind of guy, okay? That's just the way it is between humans, okay? You always have these skirmishes. Look at Ireland, okay? And look at the Catholics and the Protestants fighting over there, okay? And it's not always just government. I've seen whole nations at war with each other in Florida, okay? Sorry about that little noise. That's my Facebook alert thing. So you have, sometimes whole communities at war with each other over some stupid family dispute. So you can't just say, oh, it's only government promulgating these insurrections and wars. No, sorry, you're wrong. The human race is there's something terribly wrong with us, and it takes these giant destructions to shake us out of our slumber of stupidity. So anyway, that's my true heart, how I feel about things. Yes, I'm a realist and I'm pragmatic, but I'm an idealist too. Okay, I mean, I would ideally like to see everybody happy and healthy, and go by natural law. But that'll never happen until everybody is educated. Okay, so and you scratch the skin of an idealist and you'll find a disappointed cynic. I'm sorry, backwards. If you scratch the skin of a cynic, you'll find a disappointed idealist. And I plagiarized that from George. What's his name? Passed away a couple years ago. Carlin. So, and that's very profound words and their implication. Scratch the skin of a cynic and you'll find a disappointed idealist, and that's Stephen Miller. So, I'm not anti anything, because I can see both sides of the fence, okay? Anyway, what a mess, and you have nukes going off in the Ukraine, and nobody seems to know about that, and well, how long, people, do you think that's going to be before it happens here, to obfuscate all the criminal actions of Congress and all these bogus presidents that we have? How long is it before it comes here? From my inside sources with very high-level security clearances, I was told on the phone, by September, be in your safe place. This coming September 2015. And I feel terrible about it, and it saddens me to no end and breaks my heart, because especially for the little kids and the old people, okay? Because they're the most helpless and innocent, is the elderly and, of course, the babies, okay? And the animals, that goes without saying. Everybody in their middle age, prime of their life, it's going to be up to you to protect the children and the elderly and the animals, and actually go to your grave fighting, and then you can face whatever you call God, okay? I've been on the other side of the fence, dead and resuscitated. I didn't meet any such entity. I don't understand all that stuff. I know it was very peaceful on the other side, but there was no judgment or all this stuff, okay? And I'm not a Christian. When I died, once falling off of a building, once I overdosed on muscle relaxers and alcohol by accident, because I'm a big guy, and I was doing cement jobs all day, and I was in pain. And I drank a pint of Christian Brothers, and I swallowed down a couple muscle relaxers with it, like an idiot, and I just dropped dead, okay? My heart stopped, everything stopped. And my mom was there, couldn't resuscitate me, and 15 minutes later, the ambulance got there. I was floating around the house watching the police come in and go through the medicine cabinets, and I remember going back into my body in the ambulance after going through a peaceful white room can describe it as a room, and a woman saying, "No, you're not done yet. You have much, much left to do." And I said, "Well, I don't want to go back ever." She said, "Well, that's not how things work. Next thing I know, I'm in the ambulance, and my dad's looking down at me crying, and and now I'm all emotional coming too, and this happened to me in Florida when I fell 2 stories and rolled out of my body, and watched myself from which seemed like 100 feet up in the air, and so I've been through amazing things, and I can testify that there's something after this, but I don't claim to know what. That's the difference, okay? But I don't believe in near-death experiences in the hospital because I've researched them, and I think they're based on chemicals and stuff. Because there's too many stories of children seeing Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner and Pee-wee's Big Top and Santa Claus, So, and we know these are fictional things, and so I don't believe anybody that says they seen Jesus, or Muhammad or whatever. I think they're just seeing what they were religiously trained to see, and their mind was stressed. They weren't actually dead. In other words, I was actually dead. My heart stopped, no brain activity. I was actually dead. There was a big difference, and it wasn't like what I hear on these NDE experiences. The closest NDD experience would be to mine would be the neuro brain surgeon. That would be the closest. It was just peaceful, and there was no religion involved, So we got to wake up, ladies and gentlemen. The Illuminati, or the ancient Freemasons, okay, they're the ones that wrote your Bible, and it's all astrology, astrotheology, okay, which is astronomically different from like Edgar Cayce astrology, okay, which is the real deal. Because back then they didn't have clocks and watches in a hospital where you could have your where they paid attention to the exact day you were born and what time, okay? So anyway, that's enough for today. I love everybody. Please prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.